Greetings everybody, welcome back to Particle Fleet Emergence. We're going to have a bit of a different episode here today. Before I get into that, my voice is definitely off. I got sick a couple days ago. It's really going around where I am, cold weather, etc. So I'm probably going to sound a little different for about the next week or so till I get healthy again. But hopefully we'll be able to keep going. My apologies for that. So we're going to take a look at the ship editor stuff today. We'll get back to Inception in the next episode. But the reason for that is an eagle-eyed viewer noticed, and I really appreciate the heads up, that the stock ship I was missing was actually in this. This is Duty. This is the final campaign mission of the story. And it was right up here in the corner. And I was, when you're moving around, a lot of times that gets covered up by the UI. And then also, I was concentrating on the amp gems and all of these Bertha cannons and everything. I totally forgot about it. So, let's get into the dialogue of what all that's about, with Cammy starting it off. Vero class, of course, named after Vero Hale. Why? Well, Vero did see it through. Okay, so the Vero ship, right here, and it's quite expensive, but it's got, if you can see the preview there, it's got a couple engines in the back. It's got 3 of the Mark 7 cannons. I think the only one that has one is the Big Nose, and it's only got the one. It's got a couple energy tanks, missiles, some other things. So it's definitely it's a big, powerful ship. You can see by the size differential there. Okay, so obviously that would have helped us quite a bit, particularly when it comes to taking down those orbital stations. These things right over here that I had so much trouble with. In any case, we managed to see it through without it. We're going to leave this now. Look at a couple things. So hypothetically, let's back out more. Okay, so let's say we're going into Inception and we were going to do this mission again. We're not going to, of course, but take the sandbox fleet option, and it brings up this. This is the designer, and I'll get into the features a little bit because we're going to move into a different screen to do that. It actually is. It's weird because it's different. Like from this one, you can see all the stock ships. You can see all the ships that you've built, which are none. And you can see all of the online ships. For example, one of them that I've of course looked up is the Thor. It's rather a big thing that there's no Thor in this game. If we do our search here. There we go. And there's actually only one of these that is even built mostly the same as the Thor. Like, I think this is the best existing one. I don't think it's quite big enough, though. I may make my own version of it, just a little bit bigger version. And that's sort of be my contribution, rather, to the Particle Fleet community. This is some good stuff on it. And if you look at the cost, it's $924. It's got a bunch of missiles on it. I think the wings are a little bit big. Like, this should be a little bit wider. These should be cut off a little more, and then the whole thing should be bigger. That's sort of my impression of the ship. But obviously it's better than a lot of these, which are just, I mean, that's just a box. It's got a stupid amount of reactors, and I mean, that's kind of annoying. And it's got all of the main different weapon systems. So this was a really good attempt at it. I just think it's by the Durf 010. I just think it's a little bit undersized. So let's take a look at the custom ones. Or the stock ones, rather. Here's the Lathe, Destroyer, Joven, Cruiser, etc. And one thing you notice is they've got this gray thing around the outside. That's armor. That's pretty much a standard thing that keeps it from blowing up. Of course, the hammer, almost all armor. etc. Discharger. And then if you look at some of the more expensive one, Big Nose 456. 684 for the C-Class. 617 for the Carrier, and the Vero coming in at 951. So I believe like the Marauder 412, okay, Discharger, Wolf 412, yeah. So the Vero at 951 is the most expensive and slightly more expensive than that custom Thor. And I just think the Thor should be like a 2,000 or 3,000 ship, you know, with a whole bunch of different stuff in it. And then let's say you design something here, and you can just save ship to the local database, or you can move it to the mission inventory. You can clear these out. You can add more ships from the online set or the custom set, etc. And notice the current fleet value. Like for this mission, you can have as much high of max fleet value as you want. But one of the things they can do in the custom missions is set a limit on the fleet value so that you can choose your own ships, but they can't go beyond that. And so there's sort of a mixing and matching, getting the most bang for your buck. That's part of the strategy. Okay, so let's get out of this, because the standard ship editor doesn't have all those custom ones in it, but it's a little easier to deal with in other ways. Okay, so you start off with Dumb Thing, which is this right here. And if you want to create a new ship, this is a little bit confusing because you have to enter a new name. If you just click create new ship, it does nothing. And so this can be pretty hard to use until you get used to it. And then when you're done with it, you want to save the name of it here, which is weird because you now got the name in two different places. Then you've got the designer, and you can put a description in for it. You can upload it, all of those things. Okay, so what do we have going on here? First of all, let's look at this. If we edit the hull, and, you know, we've got little angled pieces that we can use. And you can use the wheel or the mouse arrows to rotate them around. So, like, you can have little sort of aerodynamic sections by doing that. And then also by using this. You can shift the whole thing around by using these. And then this is the armor. So if I wanted to put armor on the outside of this, you can do like that. And then you right click to remove. And then of course this is just a standard hull piece. Now, let's say we removed all of these. And that's literally the most minimalist thing we can build with a cost of 14. Whoops. Go back to editing. If we close this, so we get rid of that little cursor. This, you need to have the whole thing off so you can deal with the modules. And this is the cockpit, and you can't get rid of it. Just snaps back into place. You have to have that on there. If that gets destroyed, your whole ship gets destroyed. Okay? So let's just say we did Dumber Thing. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay, so now we've... It's not actually what I meant to do, but I've saved the smaller version as Dumb Thing, and this is Dumber Thing, because I was... Okay, so let's say we just want to create a new one from start. And I'm going to do some time-lapse here, so that you don't have to put up with all of this. But we've seen the smallest ship possible. So let's create the biggest ship possible. We're going to call this Monstro. Okay, and you can do a 35 by 25 grid. And the reason I'm going to do this in time-lapse format is so you don't go to sleep watching this whole thing. But I'm literally going to fill in the entire bit here. So that's completely filled in with hull. Now the armor is 5,601 already. The armor is 3 points of value to add to that. 35 by 25 is our size. And just for the sake of being ridiculous, I'm going to build this thing as the most expensive ship possible. We saw the least expensive was 14. And the particle beam, it turns out, is the best for that, because it's going to add 15 to our value, or cost rather, whatever, for a 1x1 square. Unfortunately, you can't just paint these. You have to actually click on each individual spot, which is not a problem for most of the modules, and it's not a problem for a reasonably sized design. That's not what this is. So I'm going to be here for a while, filling out all this, to produce probably the most ridiculous design ever in the ship editor. All right. There it is. That is Monstro. And for those of you scoring at home, that is 821 particle beams placed individually. Yes, congratulations for attending this complete waste of time. 18,591 in cost. It would take forever to build, and it would move really slowly because it doesn't have an engine, and it wouldn't be very good at much, but obviously it could take down pretty good groups of enemy particulate, and it would be super awesome at repairing plasma. I wouldn't recommend anybody ever build something like this. It's more a demonstration of concept, and some of the other modules cost more, but none of them that cost more per, unit of space. So that's the deal here. Okay, now why don't we try making something that's actually potentially useful? So this is the part where I'm like, you know what? Feel free to shower me with ideas. But a few things that I came up with. I think a lot of the combat ships really are good as is. For example, the Grabber. I mean, there's nothing particularly wrong with the existing Grabbers. Having more than one Grabber port in a ship, I don't know what good that would do. Same with the port, which is for the tankers. What good of having more than one? You could potentially want to build one that would hold more energy, or be faster or something. But, a lot of that stuff, not so much of a great use for it. You've got the Wolf with the multiple missile launcher. The Marauder is good with multiple weapons. And it's sort of a, what's the cost versus the reward of it? I think maybe just some bigger, more powerful ships might be useful. But one of the things that really jumps out to me is just the lathes. Like, they're good for being a single one. Like, they just don't... They don't seem to get the job done well enough. I like those for, like, back alley, like, rebuilding stuff. Type of things. I'd want a lathe or two in the fleet, but I want something that's a little bit bigger, a little bit beefier. So I'm going to go with, and I could go bigger than this, but given the spacing, you got to get within a certain range of it. I'm going to go with a bi-lathe. I'm going to assume the rear of the ship's going to be fairly safe here. Let's add some more to the front, and I may need more than this, but it's going to want to have a row of armor. And then I want to put lathes behind that. So let's see. I gotta move this. Now will they fit? Yep. Okay, that would do okay. And then, like, I could make it even wider and put a third one on, but I don't think I'm going to bother with that here. So let's see, let's do another row of armor. We'll go along the sides, but not necessarily in the back. And then we're going to want to put an engine on it. I think one is probably enough. Let's put you there. I don't know. Let's have the one laser. Let's get rid of one of these. I think that'll just kind of sit there. I mean, this isn't that aesthetically beautiful, obviously. It's just a box. But I think it's functional. It's got an engine, the command pod. And if it gets hit from the back, it's going to be in trouble. But it really shouldn't ever be getting hit from the back. So it looks dumb. But you know what? It works. So I'm going to go with it. And I still don't have an apply button here. Okay, so that's that. And then I want to... Let's do something... Like, I like the fighters, but let's do something that's bigger. And it didn't save. Okay, so I'm not sure what happened differently, but that's now marginally more aerodynamic. Still looks dumb. It just doesn't look quite as dumb as the other one did. Okay, so on to the super carrier. Okay, so not the greatest work of art in the history of man, but it's got these little things jutting out here for weapons outside the armor, just because I felt like doing that. 2 engines in the back. The idea is this would be going up to the limit of our energy range, so it's got the armor in front, but it shouldn't need any in back, and it's got 4 takeoff areas. And this is more expensive than the Vero. It's about twice as much the cost of the carrier, and it doesn't have a bunch of extra energy or whatever, so it's got to stay within our own energy limits. But still, that's a thing. That's a thing that we could use, potentially. Might not want to, but definitely for an area that is going to need long-term defense, it could be a good one-size-fits-all solution. Okay, so a couple more things I want to do. One is that I find the dischargers tend to get overwhelmed by a lot of stunners. I often wish they had more firepower. They actually have 2 dischargers on them. But I just saved the stock discharger under a new name, Discharger XL. And what I'm going to do here is just sort of flatten all this out and just add a 3rd discharger. This is not a huge change. Oh, we got to get rid of that armor. There we go. And then put the armor in front. And still keeping the 2 lasers, the 1 engine, the cockpit. Very reasonably priced ship still. I think it was like $284 before, now it's like $297. So, we're going to go with that. Let's just make sure that's saved right. Yep, there we go. Okay. And then for my last project, I'm going to take on this whole Thor thing. And I downloaded the one, add a little tiny bit there. And I actually went and looked at the designs for, like, what the Creeper World 3 Thor looked like. It looked a little different than I remember. But basically, this part is out a little bit. It's got this narrow thing back here, and this big out here with these things sticking up like this. This is out wider. So this isn't a bad miniature Thor. That's how I feel about it. I just want it to be, I want it to be much bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and just sort of, you know, expand this is my current deal. So I think I want this. This is a decent part. Oh yeah, we got to get rid of these first. Okay. Let's get rid of that, and this. I think I want to narrow this down to 3 wide. Well, let's do 5 wide through here, because I'm going to want to have armor out there. Okay. And get rid of all this. I think we want to pull all of this out, because the back was pretty much even. It didn't have this tapered thing. Go out to about here. I don't know, is that symmetrical or... It's another 5. Yeah, that's even. We'll go ahead and fix this up later. Maybe something like that. Then like at the very edges, coming up to about here. Maybe 1 shorter than that. Now I think maybe I want to move the back. Not that far. 2 more spots back. Nope, nope, nope. Okay. That's even, and once I get all the weapons on, that's going to be roughly what I want. Let's get rid of... Let's put normal hull there. Yeah, so now we got a lot more space to work with. That's reasonable. And I'll have armor on just the tips of the wings. And then along this whole thing. There wasn't, in my opinion, enough armor on the original. I'm not going to have a huge amount of armor because the strength of the Thor, at least in my sort of little headcanon, is more about the technology. I definitely want to keep the guppy and the energy tank. May even add another one. Okay. So, I think that's the basic structure. If anything, the head here might be a little bit small, but I think that's the right general area. Okay, 2 engines. Yeah, let's do that. Throw a laser in between them. Can always replace these. Now, I don't necessarily want to put fighters or anything like that on that. I want shields, and there's sort of like a diminishing return thing with the shields. You know, you don't get quite as much benefit after additional ones, so I'm just going to put 2. And then there's the whole, you know, reactors to produce your own energy. And I think having a couple of those on here makes a lot of sense. Most of the stock ships don't have those. I think it's just the Vero and the Command HQ that have those. So if I have 2 of those, and then I put a couple energy tanks back here. Let's get rid of that. No, go back to editing for sure. Okay. Now it just needs to be stupidly powerful. I think the cockpit's better served right there. Let's throw a cannon here. Cannon here. Yeah, let's, nope, go back. Dischargers, yeah. Dischargers are very long range. I actually don't want the armor there. I don't want the guppy, I don't think. At least, well, I probably want it later. Discharger. You know what? Let's put a discharger. Let's move these. I think 2 is probably sufficient. And maybe a guppy right behind each of those. That's some decent symmetry. Okay. Missile launchers behind each of the cannons. I like that idea. Not sure what I want to do there. Let's definitely grab particle beams here. Yeah, these should either be 4 wide or 2. You know, I'm going to make them 4 wide. Just so they can, because of how big those particle cannons and missile launchers are. So I think I want... Oh, that's wrong. Missile launcher is able to fire in all directions from this inner row. And then cannons along the outside. Well, let's move the cockpit back. Yeah, let's just get rid of these for now. Starting to get close to the end here, but I like the idea of right down the axis here, just having a string of these. You know what? I want to make room for another one. I'm going to add on to this. We'll clean that up later. Because the Varro has 3. So, we can't let the Varro have more than we do. Would like a symmetrical location for this, though. You know what, let's just... We don't want it up front. Let's put the... well, maybe we put the 3 there. Cockpit back here. Okay, let's move this back up. Let's sort of rethink this a bit. Doesn't matter where the guppies are. Guppies there. Dischargers here. Though it does still make sense for them to be symmetrical. Yeah, I'm still just short of room. Okay. Let's move all these back 1. I'll get this straightened out eventually. Yeah, just being slightly offset. There we go. There's all your main guns. Maybe some last ditch, you know, particle beams thrown in there. You know what? This might look pretty cool sort of an engine area just sort of inset from the rest of the ship. I wanted to be in the 2,000 to 3,000 range, and we're a little under 3,000 here, so we're actually doing okay. We could add more stuff here. But, you know what? I think I'm going to call it as it is. Yep, that's my Thor. So, that's my tour through the ships. Let me know what you think of those. And I'm going to be definitely moving on with Inception and using some of these ships hopefully in that campaign. Till then, thanks for watching, everybody. More Particle Fleet Emergence will continue.